What if solitude could be your greatest teacher? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive in a world that often equates being alone with loneliness. But here's the truth: solitude, when approached with intention, has the power to unlock a depth of inner strength you never knew you had. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." These words, written centuries ago, still resonate today because stillness, when embraced, isn't empty. It's full of potential. In this video, we're diving into 30 Stoic rituals designed to transform solitude into a powerful tool for self-mastery. These practices aren't about escaping the world. They're about turning inward to find clarity, resilience, and purpose. Whether you're navigating a season of isolation or simply seeking a deeper connection with yourself, these rituals will show you how to harness the quiet moments in life to build unshakable inner strength. So let's begin this journey together, because sometimes the most profound growth happens when we're alone with our thoughts. How often do you begin your day with clarity and purpose? For many of us, mornings are a rush, grabbing coffee, checking notifications, and diving straight into the chaos of the day. But the Stoics understood that how you start your morning sets the tone for everything that follows. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, made it a habit to reflect each morning, grounding himself in principles of virtue and self-awareness before facing the demands of his empire. He didn't just wake up, he woke up with intention. This is the essence of Ritual 1, morning reflection. It's not about adding another task to your to-do list, but about creating space to align your thoughts and actions with what truly matters. Seneca, another Stoic giant, once said, "Begin at once to live and count each day as a separate life." What he meant was this: every morning is a new opportunity to reset, to choose how you want to show up in the world. Morning reflection is your chance to ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? What virtues will guide my actions? One practical way to bring this ritual into your life is through journaling. It's a modern adaptation of what the Stoics did centuries ago. Take just 5 minutes each morning to write down your intentions, your goals, or even a single virtue you want to embody that day. It could be patience, courage, or kindness. By putting your thoughts on paper, you're not just planning your day, you're aligning your mind with your values. So here's a question to reflect on. What would it feel like to start your day with a moment of stillness, a moment where you decide how you want to show up, no matter what challenges come your way? Morning reflection isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about giving yourself the gift of starting each day with purpose, just as the Stoics did. And who knows, those quiet moments might just become the foundation of your inner strength. What if you could turn every mistake into a lesson? It's a powerful question, and it's at the heart of Ritual 2, Evening Review. While morning reflection sets the tone for your day, the evening review is your opportunity to look back, learn, and grow. The Stoics believed that no day was truly complete without taking stock of what happened, not to dwell on regrets, but to extract wisdom from every experience. As Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." In other words, growth is a process, and the evening review is how you tend to that process daily. This ritual isn't about judgment or self-criticism. It's about observation and gratitude. Imagine sitting down at the end of your day, not to replay your frustrations, but to ask yourself, what did I learn today? Where did I show up as my best self? Where could I improve? The Stoics called this practice meditatio, or meditation on the day. It's a way of turning even the smallest moments into opportunities for self-improvement. One practical way to incorporate this ritual is by keeping a simple journal. At the end of each day, write down 3 things: one thing you're grateful for, one lesson you learned, and one area where you can grow. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a few sentences to help you reflect. For example, maybe you lost your temper during a conversation. Instead of beating yourself up, ask, what triggered me? How can I respond differently next time? Or perhaps you handled a difficult situation with patience. Acknowledge that too. Celebrate the wins, no matter how small. Here's a thought to carry with you. Every evening is a chance to close the day with purpose. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. By taking a few moments to review your day, you're actively shaping who you become. So tonight, when the day winds down, ask yourself, what did today teach me? How can I carry those lessons into tomorrow? Because in the quiet of the evening, you might just find the seeds of your next breakthrough. What if discomfort could make you unshakable? It's a question that might seem strange at first, especially in a world that often prioritizes comfort and convenience. But the Stoics believed that facing discomfort voluntarily was one of the most powerful ways to build resilience and inner strength. Seneca, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? What he's getting at is this: by willingly stepping into discomfort, you prove to yourself that you're capable of enduring far. Then you think. You train your mind to see challenges not as threats but as opportunities for growth. This brings us to Ritual 3, embrace voluntary discomfort. The idea isn't to punish yourself or make life harder than it needs to be. It's about intentionally choosing small hardships to strengthen your mental and emotional resilience. Think of it like lifting weights for your mind. Just as muscles grow stronger under stress, so does your ability to handle life's inevitable challenges. The Stoics called this practice ascesis, which translates to disciplined training. It's about preparing yourself for the unexpected by willingly stepping outside your comfort zone. So how can you apply this today? Start small. One modern adaptation of this ritual is taking cold showers. It's a simple act, but it teaches you to stay calm and focused even when faced with something unpleasant. Another option is intermittent fasting, where you voluntarily skip a meal or delay eating for a set period. These practices aren't about suffering for its own sake. They're about proving to yourself that you have the strength to endure discomfort without being overwhelmed by it. Over time, these small acts of discipline build a foundation of resilience that can carry you through much larger challenges. Here's a thought to carry with you. What's one discomfort you could embrace this week? It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's waking up earlier than usual, taking a break from social media, or even having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. The key is to approach it with intention, reminding yourself that this small act of discomfort is helping you grow stronger. Because when you learn to face discomfort willingly, you're not just building resilience, you're reclaiming your power to choose how you respond to life's hardships. And that's a strength no one can take away from you. What would you do differently if today were your last day? It's a question that can stop you in your tracks, forcing you to confront what truly matters. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a hypothetical exercise. It was a daily practice known as Memento Mori, a Latin phrase meaning "remember you must die." Far from being morbid, this ritual was designed to sharpen focus, clarify priorities, and inspire virtuous living. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. His words remind us that life is fleeting, and that awareness can be a powerful motivator to live with intention. At its core, Memento Mori isn't about fear or despair, it's about perspective. By reflecting on the inevitability of death, the Stoics sought to strip away distractions and focus on what truly matters. Imagine if you carried that awareness with you every day. How might it change the way you spend your time, the way you treat others, or the way you pursue your goals? This ritual isn't about dwelling on the end. It's about making the most of the time you have. One practical way to incorporate Memento Mori into your life is by keeping a symbolic reminder nearby. The Stoics often used objects like skulls or hourglasses to ground themselves in the reality of life's brevity. In a modern context, this could be as simple as a small token on your desk, a stone, a piece of art, or even a note with the phrase Memento Mori written on it. These reminders aren't meant to haunt you, they're meant to inspire you. Every time you glance at it, let it serve as a nudge to ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I making the most of this moment? Here's a thought to reflect on. How would your life change if you approached each day as if it were a gift, not a guarantee? What would you stop putting off? What would you start doing more of? The beauty of Memento Mori is that it doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic shifts. It's about small, intentional choices, choosing kindness over pettiness, presence over distraction, and purpose over procrastination. Because when you remember that your time is limited, you begin to live not just fully, but meaningfully. And that's a legacy worth building. What if you already have everything you need? It's a question that might catch you off guard, especially in a world that constantly pushes us to want more. But for the Stoics, gratitude wasn't just a nice-to-have. It was a fundamental practice for cultivating contentment and inner peace. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that true abundance isn't about accumulating more. It's about appreciating what's already here. This brings us to Ritual 5, Cultivate Gratitude. At its core, this practice is about shifting your focus from what's missing to what's present. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of more success, more possessions, more validation. But the Stoics believed that this endless chase often leads to dissatisfaction. Gratitude, on the other hand, allows you to find fulfillment in the here and now. It's not about ignoring life's challenges, it's about choosing to see the good alongside them. One practical way to bring this ritual into your daily life is through a gratitude journal. Each day, take a few moments to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or extraordinary. Sometimes it's the smallest things that hold the most meaning. Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your face, a kind word from a friend, or even the simple fact that you woke up this morning. By consciously noting these moments, you train your mind to notice and appreciate the abundance that already exists in your life. Here's a thought to carry with you. What would it feel like to end each day not by focusing on what went wrong, but by celebrating what went right? Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding the beauty in the imperfect. So tonight, before you go to sleep, take a moment to reflect. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? It could be something as small as a good cup of coffee or as significant as the love of your family. Because when you shift your focus from lack to abundance, you begin to realize that what you have is often more than enough. And in that realization, you might just find the contentment you've been searching for. What if you could face any challenge without fear? It's a bold question, but one that lies at the heart of Ritual 6. Practice negative visualization. At first glance, imagining worst-case scenarios might seem counterintuitive. Why focus on what could go wrong? But the Stoics believed that by deliberately envisioning adversity, you could prepare yourself emotionally and mentally for life's uncertainties. This practice, known as premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, wasn't about dwelling on fear or pessimism. It was about building resilience by confronting potential challenges before they happened. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, captured the essence of this practice when he wrote, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. In other words, by anticipating difficulties, you reduce their power to overwhelm you. Negative visualization isn't about expecting the worst, it's about being prepared for anything. It's a way of training your mind to stay calm and resourceful, even in the face of adversity. So, how does this work in practice? Let's say you're worried about losing your job. Instead of avoiding the thought, take a moment to imagine it happening. Picture the steps you'd take to find a new opportunity, the support you'd lean on, and the skills you'd use to adapt. By walking through this scenario in your mind, you're not only preparing for a potential challenge, you're also reminding yourself of your own resilience. And here's the unexpected benefit. This exercise often leads to a deeper appreciation for what you currently have. When you imagine life without something, whether it's your job, your health, or even a loved one, you're reminded of its value, and that gratitude can be a powerful source of strength. Here's a thought to reflect on. What's one challenge you've been avoiding thinking about? How might visualizing it and your response to it help you feel more prepared? Negative visualization isn't about inviting fear into your life. It's about taking away its power. By facing potential hardships in your mind, you're building a mental toolkit that will help you navigate whatever life throws your way. And in doing so, you might just discover that you're stronger than you ever realized. What if you could stop worrying about what you can't change? It's a liberating thought, isn't it? The truth is, much of what we stress over other people's opinions, the weather, traffic, lies entirely outside our control. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they developed a powerful mental framework to help us navigate life's uncertainties. It's called the dichotomy of control, and it's the foundation of Ritual 7, focus on what you control. This simple yet transformative practice is about redirecting your energy toward what you can influence, rather than wasting it on what you can't. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. In a word, whatever is our own doing. Not within our power are our body, property, reputation, and office. In a word, whatever is not our own doing." His words remind us that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. And that's where true power lies. So how do you apply this in everyday life? Start by identifying one external stressor that's been weighing on you. Maybe it's a colleague's criticism, a delayed flight, or even the state of the world. Now ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, make a conscious decision to let it go. This doesn't mean ignoring the issue or pretending it doesn't matter. It means recognizing that worrying about it won't change the outcome and choosing to focus your energy on what you can do instead. For example, if you're stressed about a project deadline, you can't control how quickly others complete their tasks, but you can focus on doing your part efficiently and effectively. Here's a question to reflect on. What's one challenge you're facing right now, and what part of it is truly within your control? By shifting your focus to your own actions, attitudes, and choices, you reclaim your power. You stop being a passive observer of life's chaos and start becoming an active participant in shaping your own experience. And that's the beauty of this ritual. It doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers you to live with intention and clarity, no matter what life throws your way. What if every setback were a gift? It's a question that might feel jarring at first, especially when life throws you a curveball. But for the Stoics, this mindset wasn't just philosophical, it was a way of life. They called it Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. At its core, this practice is about embracing everything that happens to you, the good, the bad, and the unexpected, as an essential part of your journey. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, even the most challenging experiences can fuel your growth if you choose to see them that way. This brings us to Ritual 8, Practice Amor Fati. The Stoics believed that life isn't about controlling what happens to you, but about how you respond to it. By loving your fate, you stop resisting what's outside your control and start finding meaning in every moment. Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic philosophy, later echoed this idea, saying, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." It's a powerful reminder that true freedom comes not from changing your circumstances, but from changing your perspective. So, how can you apply this in your own life? Start by reframing a recent disappointment as an opportunity. Let's say you didn't get the job you wanted. Instead of dwelling on the rejection, ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How might this setback open the door to something even better? By shifting your focus from what went wrong to what you can gain, you begin to see challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect, it's about finding the hidden value in imperfection. Here's a thought to reflect on. What's one struggle you're facing right now, and how might it be shaping you in ways you haven't yet realized? Amor Fati isn't about blind optimism, it's about trust. Trust that every experience, no matter how difficult, is part of a larger story, one that's helping you become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. So the next time life doesn't go as planned, try this. Take a deep breath, remind yourself that this moment is your teacher, and ask, what can I learn from this? Because when you learn to love your fate, you stop fighting life and start living it. What if less truly were more? It's a question that challenges the very fabric of our modern lives, where we're often overwhelmed by endless choices, commitments, and clutter. The Stoics, however, saw simplicity as a pathway to clarity and freedom. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." His words remind us that true wealth isn't found in accumulation, but in the ability to focus on what truly matters. This is the essence of Ritual 9, Simplify Your Life. For the Stoics, simplicity wasn't just about physical possessions, it was a way of thinking. They believed that by reducing distractions, we could create space for what's meaningful, our values, our relationships, and our inner peace. In a world that constantly demands more stuff, more attention, more time, this ritual invites you to step back and ask, what am I holding onto that no longer serves me? It's about intentionally choosing less so you can experience more. One practical way to embrace this ritual is through decluttering. Start small, one drawer, one shelf, or even one corner of your home. As you let go of what you don't need, you're not just creating physical space, you're also clearing mental and emotional space. The same principle applies to your schedule. Take a moment to look at your commitments. Are there activities or obligations that drain your energy without adding value? Simplifying your life isn't about deprivation. It's about prioritizing what aligns with your values and letting go of the rest. Here's a thought to reflect on. What's one thing, whether it's a physical object, a habit, or even a thought pattern, that you could release to create more space in your life? Simplification isn't about achieving perfection. It's about making room for what truly matters. By choosing to live with less, you're not losing anything. You're gaining the freedom to focus on what brings you joy, purpose, and peace. And in that space, you might just discover a deeper sense of contentment than you ever thought possible. What if you could truly hear others, not just the words they say, but the emotions, the intentions, and the unspoken truths behind them? The Stoics believed that deep listening was one of the most powerful ways to connect with others and cultivate meaningful relationships. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This simple yet profound insight reminds us that listening isn't just about hearing, it's about understanding, empathizing, and showing up fully for the person in front of you. This is the essence of Ritual 10, practice deep listening. For the Stoics, listening wasn't a passive act, it was an active practice of presence and compassion. In a world where distractions are constant and attention spans are short, truly listening to someone can feel like a rare gift. But here's the thing, when you give someone your full attention, you're not just building trust, you're also deepening your own capacity for empathy and connection. Deep listening is about setting aside your own thoughts, judgments, and agendas to truly meet the other person where they are. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start with your next conversation. Instead of planning your response while the other person is speaking, focus entirely on their words. Notice their tone, their body language, and the emotions behind what they're saying. Resist the urge to interrupt or offer advice unless they ask for it. Simply be there, fully present, and let them know they've been heard. This might feel challenging at first, especially if you're used to multitasking or rushing through conversations. But like any skill, deep listening gets easier with practice, and the rewards are profound. Here's a thought to carry with you. When was the last time you felt truly heard? How did it make you feel? Now, imagine giving that same gift to someone else. Whether it's a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, the act of listening deeply can transform not only your relationships but also your own sense of connection and purpose. Because when you truly listen, you're not just hearing words, you're building bridges. And in those moments of presence, you might just discover a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. What if your actions always reflected your values? It's a question that cuts to the heart of what it means to live a meaningful life. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't just an abstract ideal, it was the foundation of everything. They believed that true happiness and fulfillment could only be found by aligning your actions with timeless principles like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. This brings us to Ritual 11, meditate on virtue. At its core, this practice is about making virtue the compass that guides your decisions, your relationships, and your character. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." His words remind us that living virtuously isn't about perfection, it's about intention. It's about asking yourself in every moment, what kind of person do I want to be? And then taking steps to embody that ideal. The Stoics saw virtue as living in accordance with nature, not just the natural world, but your own inner nature as a rational, moral being. When you act with wisdom, courage, and integrity, you're not just following rules, you're fulfilling your highest potential. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? One powerful way is through journaling. At the end of each day, take a few moments to reflect. How did I embody virtue today? Did I act with wisdom in a difficult situation? Did I show courage when faced with fear? Did I treat others with fairness and kindness? By consciously reviewing your actions through the lens of virtue, you're not just reflecting on what you did, you're reinforcing the values you want to live by. This practice helps you stay aligned with your principles, even when life gets messy or complicated. Here's a thought to carry with you. What's one area of your life where you could act more virtuously? Maybe it's standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Or perhaps it's choosing patience when you're tempted to react impulsively. Meditating on virtue isn't about judging yourself. It's about growing into the best version of yourself, one choice at a time. And as you do, you'll find that living with integrity isn't just good for your soul, it's a source of deep, lasting strength. Because when your actions reflect your values, you're not just surviving life, you're thriving in it. What if silence could be your greatest ally? In a world that never stops talking, where notifications buzz, screens glow, and voices clamor for attention, silence often feels like a forgotten treasure. But the Stoics knew better. They saw silence not as emptiness, but as a space for clarity, insight, and renewal. Seneca, one of the most eloquent voices of Stoicism, once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." And sometimes he might have added, "To be silent is an act of wisdom." This brings us to Ritual 12, practice silence. For the Stoics, silence wasn't just the absence of noise. It was a deliberate choice to step away from the chaos and listen to the voice within. It's in these quiet moments that we can reconnect with our thoughts, untangle our emotions, and find the clarity we need to navigate life's challenges. Silence, in essence, becomes a sanctuary, a place where you can hear yourself think, feel, and simply be. So how can you bring this ritual into your life? Start small. Set aside just 10 minutes each day to sit in silence. It doesn't have to be a grand meditation session or a retreat into nature, though those are wonderful options. It can be as simple as turning off your phone, closing your eyes, and letting your mind settle. You might be surprised by what arises when you give yourself permission to simply exist without distractions. Perhaps you'll uncover a solution to a problem you've been wrestling with, or maybe you'll find a sense of peace that's been eluding you. Here's a thought to reflect on. What does silence reveal to you when you truly listen? Is it a longing you've been ignoring, a truth you've been avoiding? Or perhaps a quiet joy you've overlooked in the noise of daily life? Silence has a way of bringing what's hidden to the surface, offering you the chance to see yourself and your life more clearly. By practicing silence, you're not just creating a pause in your day, you're cultivating a deeper connection with yourself. And in that connection, you might just find the strength and clarity to face whatever comes your way. Because sometimes the most profound wisdom doesn't come from what we hear, it comes from what we hear in the stillness. What if nature held the answers you seek? It's a question that might feel poetic at first, but for the Stoics, it was a profound truth. They saw the natural world not just as a backdrop to life, but as a mirror reflecting the universal order of existence. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "Observe the movements of the stars as if you were running their courses with them, and let your mind constantly dwell on the changes of the elements into one another." Such imaginings wash away the filth of life on the ground. His words remind us that by observing nature, we can find a sense of harmony and perspective that transcends the chaos of daily life. This is the essence of Ritual 13, Observe Nature. The Stoics believed that nature was a teacher, offering lessons in resilience, impermanence, and interconnectedness. When you watch a tree sway in the wind or a river flow steadily over rocks, you're witnessing the same principles that govern life itself. Nature doesn't resist change, it adapts. It doesn't cling to what's lost, it grows anew. By spending time in nature, you're not just escaping the noise of the modern world. You're reconnecting with a deeper rhythm, one that reminds you of your place in the larger scheme of things. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? One simple yet powerful way is by taking a daily walk in nature. It doesn't have to be a grand hike or a trip to a remote forest. Even a stroll through a local park or a quiet moment in your backyard can be enough. As you walk, try to engage all your senses. Notice the sound of birdsong, the feel of the breeze on your skin, the colors of the leaves or sky. Let yourself slow down and simply observe. What patterns do you see? What rhythms do you notice? By immersing yourself in the natural world, even briefly, you're giving your mind a chance to reset and your soul a chance to breathe. Here's a thought to reflect on. What does nature teach you about life? Perhaps it's the way a seed grows into a tree, reminding you of the power of patience and persistence. Or maybe it's the ebb and flow of the tides, showing you that change is not something to fear, but something to embrace. Nature has a way of putting things in perspective, helping you see that the challenges you face are part of a larger cycle, one that's always moving, always renewing. By observing nature, you're not just escaping the noise, you're finding a quiet wisdom that can guide you through life's ups and downs. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, step outside. Look up at the sky, feel the ground beneath your feet, and let nature remind you of the beauty, balance, and resilience that exist within you too. Because sometimes the answers you seek aren't found in books or screens. They're found in the world outside your door, waiting to be discovered. What if you could let go of what you can't control? It's a question that might feel unsettling at first, especially in a world that often tells us to cling tightly to our plans, our desires, and our expectations. But for the Stoics, detachment wasn't about indifference or apathy, it was about freedom. By releasing their grip on outcomes, they found a profound sense of inner peace, even in the face of life's unpredictability. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, put it this way: "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." His words remind us that while we can't control what happens, we can always control how we respond. And that's where true freedom lies. At its core, detachment isn't about giving up, it's about letting go. The Stoics believed that our suffering often comes not from the events themselves, but from our attachment to how we think things should be. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you loosen your grip, the sand stays in your hand. Detachment works the same way. By releasing your need for specific outcomes, you create space for acceptance, adaptability, and resilience. It's not about abandoning your goals, it's about pursuing them without being enslaved by them. So, how can you practice this in your own life? Start by identifying one expectation or outcome you're overly attached to. Maybe it's a promotion at work, a relationship you've been hoping will change, or even a personal goal you've been fixated on. Now ask yourself, what's within my control here? Focus your energy on what you can do, your effort, your attitude, your preparation, and let go of the rest. For example, if you're waiting to hear back about a job, you can't control the hiring manager's decision, but you can control how you spend your time while you wait. Use it to learn, grow, or explore new opportunities. By shifting your focus from the outcome to the process, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and open yourself to new possibilities. Here's a thought to reflect on. What's one thing you're clinging to that's causing you more anxiety than it's worth? What would it feel like to loosen your grip, even just a little? Detachment isn't about giving up on your dreams, it's about finding peace in the journey, no matter where it leads. Because when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you discover a surprising truth. The less you hold on, the more you gain inner calm, clarity, and the freedom to truly live. What if waiting could make you stronger? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive in a world that values speed and instant results. But for the Stoics, patience wasn't just a virtue, it was a form of strength. They believed that enduring delays, setbacks, and frustrations with calm resolve could build resilience and deepen your character. Seneca, one of the most practical Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Time discovers truth." His words remind us that patience isn't about passive waiting. It's about trusting the process and believing that growth often happens in the spaces between action and outcome. At its core, patience is about perspective. The Stoics saw it as an opportunity to practice self-control and acceptance, even when things didn't go as planned. Imagine standing in a long line or waiting for a delayed train. In those moments, you have a choice. You can let frustration take over, or you can use the time to reflect, breathe, and focus on what's within your control. This is the essence of Ritual 15, Cultivate Patience. It's not about ignoring your emotions, it's about choosing how you respond to them. By embracing patience, you're not just enduring, you're growing. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start by identifying one situation that tests your patience. Maybe it's waiting for a response to an important email or dealing with a slow-moving project at work. Instead of letting irritation build, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this delay? How can I use this time productively? For example, if you're stuck in traffic, you might use the time to listen to an audiobook or simply reflect on your day. By shifting your focus from frustration to purpose, you transform waiting into an opportunity for growth. Here's a thought to reflect on. How might patience serve you in the areas of your life where you feel most rushed or pressured? Perhaps it's in your relationships where giving someone the time they need could deepen your connection. Or maybe it's in your personal goals where trusting the process could help you stay committed even when progress feels slow. Patience isn't just about enduring, it's about believing in the value of what's to come. And when you embrace that belief, you might just find that the wait itself becomes a source of strength. What if humility were your superpower? It's a question that might surprise you, especially in a world that often celebrates self-promotion and ego. But for the Stoics, humility wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. It was the quiet confidence of knowing your place in the world, a way of staying grounded and open to growth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. At the heart of this wisdom is humility, the understanding that we are not the center of the universe but part of something much larger. It's this perspective that allows us to learn, adapt, and connect more deeply with others. The Stoics saw humility as a gateway to wisdom. When you approach life with a humble mindset, you create space to listen, to learn, and to grow. You stop pretending to have all the answers and start embracing the questions. This doesn't mean diminishing your worth or downplaying your achievements. It means recognizing that no matter how much you know or accomplish, there's always more to learn. As Seneca wisely noted, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Humility, then, becomes a lifelong practice, a way of staying curious, open, and grounded even as you grow. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? One practical way is to practice acknowledging your mistakes. It's not always easy to admit when you're wrong, but doing so can be incredibly freeing. Let's say you snap at a colleague in a moment of frustration. Instead of justifying your behavior or brushing it off, take a moment to reflect. What triggered your reaction? How could you have handled it differently? Then, go a step further, apologize sincerely, and commit to doing better next time. This simple act of humility not only strengthens your relationships, it also deepens your self-awareness and resilience. Here's a thought to reflect on. How might humility transform the way you interact with others? Could it help you listen more deeply, resolve conflicts more effectively, or simply show up with more compassion? Humility isn't about shrinking yourself. It's about expanding your capacity to connect, to learn, and to grow. And in a world that often rewards ego, choosing humility might just be the most powerful thing you can do for yourself and for those around you. Because when you approach life with humility, you don't just stay grounded, you create space for everyone to rise. What if giving made you richer? It's a question that might sound paradoxical at first, but for the Stoics, generosity was never about material wealth, it was about enriching the soul. Seneca, one of the most eloquent voices of Stoicism, once wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." His words remind us that generosity isn't just an act of giving, it's a way of connecting, of seeing ourselves as part of a larger whole. When we give freely, we don't just help others, we strengthen our own sense of purpose and fulfillment. The Stoics saw generosity as a form of self-fulfillment, a way to align with the natural order of the universe. They believed that by giving, we tap into something greater than ourselves, something that transcends individual gain. It's not about the size of the gift or the recognition it brings, it's about the intention behind it. Whether it's sharing your time, offering a kind word, or simply showing up for someone in need, generosity is a way of affirming our shared humanity. And in doing so, we create bonds that enrich both the giver and the receiver. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start small. Today, look for one opportunity to perform an act of kindness. It could be as simple as holding the door for a stranger, offering a genuine compliment, or lending a listening ear to a friend. The key is to give without expecting anything in return. Notice how it feels to shift your focus from what you can get to what you can give. You might be surprised by the sense of connection and joy that arises when you give freely. Here's a thought to carry with you. How could generosity transform the way you relate to the world? Could it help you feel more connected, more purposeful, more alive? Generosity isn't about grand gestures. It's about the small, everyday choices that remind us of our shared humanity. So, the next time you're faced with an opportunity to give, take it. Not because you have to, but because you can. And in that act of giving, you might just discover a richness that goes far beyond anything money can buy. What if forgiveness could set you free? It's a question that carries immense weight, especially when we consider how often resentment can weigh us down. The Stoics understood that holding on to anger or bitterness wasn't just harmful to others, it was a prison for ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." His words remind us that forgiveness isn't about excusing someone's behavior or forgetting what happened. It's about releasing the grip that resentment has on you so you can move forward with clarity and peace. The Stoics saw forgiveness as a form of self-liberation. When you forgive, you're not saying the other person was right or that what they did was acceptable. You're simply choosing to let go of the emotional burden that comes with holding on to anger. It's a way of reclaiming your power, of refusing to let someone else's actions dictate your inner state. As Seneca once said, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Forgiveness, then, becomes a tool for protecting your own well-being, a way to ensure that your peace isn't held hostage by the past. So, how can you practice forgiveness in your own life? Start by reflecting on one person who has wronged you. Maybe it's a friend who let you down, a colleague who betrayed your trust, or even someone from your past who caused you pain. Now ask yourself, what would it feel like to let go of the resentment I'm holding onto? This doesn't mean you have to confront the person or even tell them you've forgiven them. Forgiveness is an internal act, a decision to release the emotional weight you've been carrying. Write a letter you never send, or simply take a moment to mentally wish them well and let go of the anger. Here's a thought to reflect on. Who in your life do you need to forgive, and how might releasing that resentment change the way you feel about yourself and your world? Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. It's about choosing to live with a lighter heart, free from the chains of bitterness. And when you do, you might just find that freedom is the greatest gift you can give yourself. What if the present moment held everything you need? It's a question that might feel simple, but its implications are profound. In a world that constantly pulls our attention to the past or the future, the Stoics understood the power of living fully in the here and now. Epictetus, one of the most practical Stoic philosophers, once said, "We should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control?" His words remind us that the present moment is the only space where we truly have agency, where we can act, choose, and live with intention. The Stoics saw presence as a form of mindfulness, a way of grounding ourselves in what's real and tangible. It's not about ignoring the past or dismissing the future. It's about recognizing that the present is where life happens. Think about it. When you're fully present, you're not weighed down by regrets or anxieties. You're free to engage with the world as it is, not as you fear or wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, often reflected on the fleeting nature of time, urging himself to confine yourself to the present. For the Stoics, presence wasn't just a practice, it was a way of reclaiming your life. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start by choosing one routine task, something you do every day, like washing dishes, folding laundry, or even brushing your teeth. Instead of letting your mind wander, focus entirely on the task at hand. Notice the sensations, the movements, the details. If your mind drifts, gently bring it back to the present. This simple act of mindfulness isn't just about the task, it's about training your mind to stay grounded in the moment. Over time, this practice can help you cultivate a deeper sense of calm and clarity, even amidst life's chaos. Here's a thought to reflect on. How often do you find yourself caught in the past or racing ahead to the future? What might change if you allowed yourself to fully inhabit the present just for a moment? Presence isn't about perfection, it's about practice. It's about showing up right here, right now, and embracing the fullness of this moment. Because when you do, you might just find that the present moment holds more than you ever realized: peace, possibility, and the power to truly live. What if discipline were the key to freedom? It's a question that might seem contradictory at first. After all, discipline often feels like restriction, like saying no to what we want in the moment. But for the Stoics, self-discipline wasn't about deprivation, it was about liberation. It was the practice of aligning your actions with your highest values, of choosing what truly matters over what feels easiest. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it this way: "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." His words remind us that true freedom isn't found in doing whatever we want. It's found in mastering our impulses so we can live with purpose and integrity. The Stoics saw self-discipline as the foundation of virtue. Without it, even the best intentions can crumble under the weight of distraction or temptation. Think about it. How often do we set goals only to abandon them when the going gets tough? Discipline is what bridges the gap between what we want and what we achieve. It's the quiet power that helps us show up even when it's hard. And here's the thing: discipline doesn't just build habits, it builds character. Each time you choose to act with intention, you're not just moving closer to your goals, you're becoming the kind of person who can achieve them. So, how can you practice this in your own life? Start small. Commit to one disciplined action each day, something simple but meaningful. Maybe it's waking up 10 minutes earlier to meditate, resisting the urge to check your phone during meals, or setting aside time to work on a long-term project. The key is consistency. Over time, these small acts of discipline will add up, creating a ripple effect that strengthens your willpower and deepens your sense of self-control. Here's a thought to reflect on. Where in your life do you need more discipline? Is it in your health, your work, your relationships, or perhaps your own thoughts? Self-discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about choosing to act in alignment with your values, even when it's uncomfortable. And when you do, you might just discover that discipline isn't a cage, it's the key that unlocks your greatest potential. Because true freedom isn't found in indulgence, it's found in the ability to choose what truly matters again and again, no matter what. What if accepting reality could bring you peace? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive, especially when life feels unfair or overwhelming. But for the Stoics, acceptance wasn't about giving up, it was about finding freedom. They believed that much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. His words remind us that acceptance isn't passive. It's an active choice to embrace life as it is, not as we wish it to be. The Stoics saw acceptance as a form of empowerment. When you stop fighting reality, you free up energy to focus on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your responses. Think of it like this: you're standing in the rain. You can curse the weather, or you can open an umbrella. Acceptance is the umbrella. It doesn't stop the rain, but it allows you to move through it without getting soaked. This mindset shift doesn't just reduce suffering, it opens the door to resilience, adaptability, and even gratitude. So, how can you practice acceptance in your own life? Start by identifying one challenge you've been resisting. Maybe it's a difficult relationship, a health issue, or a career setback. Instead of dwelling on how things should be, ask yourself, what if I accepted this as it is? How might that change my perspective? For example, if you're struggling with a delay in reaching a goal, acceptance doesn't mean abandoning your ambition. It means letting go of the frustration and focusing on what you can do in the meantime. Perhaps it's an opportunity to learn, to grow, or to explore new possibilities. Here's a thought to reflect on. What's one thing in your life that you've been resisting, and how might acceptance change the way you approach it? Acceptance isn't about resignation, it's about liberation. It's about choosing to meet life on its own terms so you can move forward with clarity and courage. Because when you stop fighting what you can't change, you create space to focus on what truly matters, and that's where real peace begins. What if fear were just an illusion? It's a question that challenges everything we think we know about courage. For the Stoics, fear wasn't something to avoid or overcome. It was simply a signal, a call to action. They believed that true courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. As Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. His words remind us that courage isn't about eliminating fear. It's about choosing to move forward, even when every instinct tells you to stay put. The Stoics saw courage as a form of virtue, a way of aligning your actions with your values, no matter the circumstances. Think about it. Every time you face a fear, whether it's speaking in public, trying something new, or standing up for what you believe in, you're not just conquering that fear, you're strengthening your character. Courage, in this sense, becomes a practice, something you cultivate through small, intentional acts of bravery. It's not about grand gestures or heroic feats. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start by identifying one fear that's been holding you back. Maybe it's asking for a promotion, having a difficult conversation, or simply trying something you've always wanted to do but felt too afraid to attempt. Now take one small step toward facing it. It doesn't have to be a giant leap, just a single action that pushes you slightly outside your comfort zone. For example, if you're afraid of public speaking, start by sharing your thoughts in a small group or recording a video for yourself. The goal isn't to eliminate the fear, it's to prove to yourself that you can act despite it. Here's something to consider. What's one fear you've been avoiding, and what would it feel like to take a small step toward facing it today? Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about choosing to act in alignment with what matters most, even when it's hard. And with each step you take, you're not just facing your fears, you're building the kind of inner strength that can carry you through life's biggest challenges. Because when you act with courage, you're not just changing your circumstances, you're changing yourself, and that's where true power lies. What if wisdom were your greatest asset? Imagine carrying with you a compass that always points true north, no matter how chaotic or uncertain life becomes. For the Stoics, wisdom wasn't just a lofty ideal. It was the very foundation of virtue, the guiding light that helped them navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most celebrated thinkers, once wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." His words remind us that wisdom isn't a destination. It's a lifelong journey of seeking knowledge and applying it thoughtfully. The Stoics saw wisdom as more than just intellectual understanding. It was the ability to discern what truly matters and act accordingly. It's what helps you distinguish between what you can control and what you can't, between fleeting distractions and lasting values. Think of it like this: wisdom isn't just knowing the right path, it's having the courage and clarity to walk it, even when the road is rough. And the beauty of wisdom is that it grows with every experience, every lesson, and every moment of reflection. So, how can you cultivate wisdom in your own life? One powerful way is through reading. The Stoics were voracious readers, drawing inspiration from philosophy, history, and the natural world. Today, you can follow in their footsteps by picking up a Stoic text like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. These works aren't just ancient wisdom, they're practical guides for living with purpose and resilience. Even dedicating just 10 minutes a day to reading can deepen your understanding and spark new insights. But wisdom isn't just about absorbing knowledge, it's about applying it. Take a moment to reflect. How can you use what you've learned to make better decisions, build stronger relationships, or face challenges with greater calm? Perhaps it's pausing before reacting in anger, or choosing patience when faced with frustration. Each small act of wisdom strengthens your ability to live in alignment with your values. Here's a thought to carry with you. What's one area of your life where you could use more wisdom? Is it in your relationships, your career, or simply in how you respond to life's ups and downs? Wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and being open to learning from every experience. Because when you make wisdom your compass, you don't just navigate life, you transform it. What if justice were the key to harmony? It's a question that might feel lofty at first, but for the Stoics, justice wasn't just a moral ideal, it was a daily practice. They believed that living with fairness and integrity wasn't just good for society, it was essential for a virtuous life. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." His words remind us that justice isn't about grand gestures or abstract principles. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting in ways that honor the well-being of others as much as our own. For the Stoics, justice was one of the four cardinal virtues alongside wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. It wasn't just about following laws or rules, it was about cultivating a sense of fairness and equity in every interaction. Think about it, when you act with integrity, you're not just doing what's right, you're creating a ripple effect that can inspire others to do the same. Justice, in this sense, becomes a way of living in harmony with the world around you, a way of aligning your actions with the greater good. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start by looking for opportunities to stand up for what's fair, even in small ways. Maybe it's speaking up when you see someone being treated unfairly, or simply choosing honesty over convenience in your own decisions. For example, if you notice a colleague being overlooked for their contributions, take a moment to acknowledge their efforts. These acts of justice don't have to be dramatic, they just have to be intentional. By standing up for fairness, you're not just helping others, you're reinforcing your own commitment to living with integrity. Here's a thought to reflect on. Where in your life could you act more justly? Is there a situation where you've stayed silent when you could have spoken up, or a decision where you prioritized convenience over fairness? Justice isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about choosing again and again to act in ways that honor the dignity and worth of everyone around you. And when you do, you might just find that justice isn't just a virtue, it's a source of profound inner peace. Because when you live with fairness and integrity, you're not just creating harmony in the world, you're cultivating it within yourself. What if balance were the secret to happiness? It's a question worth asking in a world that often pushes us to extremes, whether it's overworking, overindulging, or even overthinking. For the Stoics, temperance wasn't just a virtue, it was a way of life. They believed that true happiness and freedom came from moderation, from finding the sweet spot between too much and too little. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." His words remind us that excess doesn't lead to fulfillment, it leads to imbalance and ultimately to dissatisfaction. At its core, temperance is about self-awareness and self-control. It's about recognizing when enough is enough and having the discipline to stop there. The Stoics saw temperance as a safeguard against the chaos of desire, a way to protect your peace of mind from the endless pursuit of more. Think about it. How often do we chase after something, whether it's food, money, or attention, only to find that it leaves us feeling emptier than before? Temperance is the antidote to that cycle. It's about finding contentment in what you have rather than constantly striving for what you don't. So, how can you practice temperance in your own life? Start by choosing one area where you tend to overindulge. Maybe it's scrolling through social media for hours, eating beyond the point of satisfaction, or even overcommitting your time to others. Then set a small, manageable boundary. For example, if you're trying to cut back on screen time, you might decide to put your phone away for the first hour after you wake up or the last hour before bed. The goal isn't to eliminate the habit entirely, but to bring it back into balance. Over time, these small acts of moderation can help you reclaim your time, energy, and focus. Here's a thought to reflect on. Where in your life do you need more balance? Is it in how you spend your time, the way you treat your body, or even the way you manage your emotions? Temperance isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making choices that align with your well-being, even when it's tempting to go overboard. Because when you practice temperance, you're not just avoiding excess, you're creating space for what truly matters. And in that space, you might just find the happiness you've been searching for. What if compassion could heal the world? It's a question that feels especially relevant in a time when division and conflict often seem to dominate the conversation. But for the Stoics, compassion wasn't just a feel-good sentiment. It was a vital practice for living a virtuous life. They believed that extending kindness both to ourselves and to others was a way of recognizing our shared humanity. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." His words remind us that compassion begins with understanding, with seeing others not as obstacles but as fellow travelers on the same journey. The Stoics saw compassion as a form of connection, a way of bridging the gap between ourselves and the world around us. It wasn't about ignoring wrongdoing or excusing harmful behavior. It was about responding to others and to ourselves with empathy and kindness, even in the face of difficulty. Think about it. When you approach someone with compassion, you're not just acknowledging their humanity, you're also affirming your own. And when you extend that same kindness to yourself, especially after a mistake or failure, you create space for growth and healing. Compassion, in this sense, becomes a source of strength, a way of navigating life's challenges with grace and resilience. So, how can you bring this ritual into your daily life? Start with self-compassion. The next time you make a mistake, instead of berating yourself, take a moment to treat yourself as you would a close friend. Acknowledge what went wrong, but also remind yourself that mistakes are part of being human. For example, if you lose your temper during a conversation, instead of spiraling into self-criticism, reflect on what triggered your reaction and how you can respond differently next time. By practicing self-compassion, you're not just being kind to yourself, you're building the emotional resilience to handle future challenges with greater calm and clarity. But compassion doesn't stop with you. Look for opportunities to extend kindness to others, even in small ways. Maybe it's offering a listening ear to a friend in need, or simply smiling at a stranger who seems to be having a tough day. These acts of compassion don't have to be grand, they just have to be genuine. Each time you choose kindness, you're not just brightening someone else's day, you're reinforcing your own sense of connection and purpose. Here's something to reflect on. How could practicing compassion change the way you relate to yourself and others? Could it help you approach conflicts with more understanding, or simply make your daily interactions feel more meaningful? Compassion isn't about fixing the world, it's about showing up for it and for yourself with an open heart. And when you do, you might just find that the world starts to feel a little more whole. What if persistence were your greatest strength? It's a question that might feel daunting, especially when faced with obstacles that seem insurmountable. But for the Stoics, perseverance wasn't just a trait. It was a cornerstone of character. They believed that true growth and resilience come not from avoiding challenges, but from meeting them head-on time and time again. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured enslavement and hardship, once said, "Persist and resist. Persist in your efforts and resist giving in to distractions or setbacks." His words remind us that perseverance isn't about never failing. It's about refusing to let failure define you. The Stoics saw perseverance as a form of self-mastery. It wasn't just about pushing through difficulty, it was about maintaining your focus and integrity, even when the path ahead was unclear. Think of it like this: life is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be moments when you feel exhausted, when the finish line seems impossibly far away. But it's in those moments that perseverance becomes your greatest ally. It's the quiet voice that says, "Keep going, you're stronger than you think." And with each step forward, you're not just moving closer to your goal, you're proving to yourself that you have what it takes to endure. So, how can you cultivate perseverance in your own life? Start by committing to a long-term goal, even if progress feels slow. Maybe it's learning a new skill, improving your health, or building a meaningful relationship. The key is to focus on the process, not just the outcome. For example, if you're working on a project that feels overwhelming, break it into smaller, manageable steps. Celebrate each small victory along the way and remind yourself why the goal matters to you. Perseverance isn't about ignoring the challenges, it's about finding the strength to keep moving even when the road is tough. Here's something to reflect on. Where in your life do you need to persevere? Is there a goal you've been tempted to abandon or a challenge you've been avoiding? Perseverance isn't about never feeling doubt or frustration. It's about choosing to act despite them. Because when you refuse to give up, you're not just achieving your goals, you're building the kind of resilience that can carry you through anything life throws your way. And that's where true strength lies. What if being yourself were enough? It's a question that cuts through the noise of societal expectations, self-doubt, and the endless pursuit of approval. For the Stoics, authenticity wasn't just a buzzword, it was a cornerstone of virtuous living. They believed that true fulfillment could only come from living in alignment with your inner nature, from embracing who you are without pretense or fear. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. His words remind us that authenticity isn't about perfection, it's about honesty, both with yourself and with the world around you. At its core, authenticity is about letting go of the masks we wear to fit in or meet others' expectations. It's about recognizing that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone, not even yourself. The Stoics saw this as a form of liberation, a way to free yourself from the burden of external validation. Think about it. How often do we shape our words, actions, or even our goals to please others or avoid judgment? Authenticity is the antidote to that pressure. It's about showing up as you are, not as you think others want you to be. And when you do, you create space for deeper connections, greater self-respect, and a sense of inner peace that no amount of approval can match. So, how can you start living more authentically? Begin by identifying one area of your life where you feel out of alignment. Maybe it's a job that doesn't reflect your true passions, a relationship where you're holding back, or even a habit of downplaying your achievements to avoid standing out. Now ask yourself, what would it look like to show up more fully in this area? For example, if you've been hesitant to share your creative work with others, consider taking one small step toward putting it out there. It could be as simple as sharing a piece of writing with a trusted friend or posting a project you've been working on. The goal isn't to overhaul your life overnight, it's to start embracing who you are one step at a time. Here's something to reflect on. Where in your life are you holding back, and what might change if you allowed yourself to be more fully seen? Authenticity isn't about being loud or extroverted, it's about being real. It's about honoring your values, your passions, and your unique perspective, even when it feels vulnerable. And when you do, you might just discover that being yourself isn't just enough, it's everything. Because authenticity isn't just a path to virtue, it's a path to freedom, connection, and a life that feels truly your own. What if challenges were your greatest teachers? It's a perspective that might feel counterintuitive, especially when life feels heavy or overwhelming. But for the Stoics, adversity wasn't something to avoid, it was a classroom. They believed that every difficulty, no matter how painful, held within it the seeds of growth and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. His words remind us that challenges aren't roadblocks, they're stepping stones, shaping us into stronger, more resilient versions of ourselves. At its core, this ritual is about shifting your perspective. It's about seeing challenges not as punishments or setbacks, but as opportunities to learn and grow. Think about it. When was the last time you faced a difficult situation and came out the other side stronger or wiser? Maybe it was a failure that taught you humility, a rejection that pushed you to try harder, or even a loss that deepened your appreciation for what you have. The Stoics called this process Amor Fati, loving your fate. It's about embracing every experience, good or bad, as a necessary part of your journey. So, how can you start practicing gratitude for challenges in your own life? Begin by identifying one current struggle. It could be a personal setback, a professional obstacle, or even a conflict in a relationship. Now, ask yourself, what can this challenge teach me? Perhaps it's teaching you patience, resilience, or the value of asking for help. For example, if you're facing a financial difficulty, it might be an opportunity to reevaluate your priorities and develop better habits around saving and spending. By reframing the challenge as a lesson, you're not just enduring it, you're growing from it. Here's something to reflect on. What's one challenge you're facing right now, and what might it be trying to teach you? Gratitude for challenges isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding meaning in the imperfect. It's about recognizing that even the hardest moments have something to offer, whether it's strength, clarity, or a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. And when you approach life with this mindset, you're not just surviving adversity, you're thriving because of it. What if remembering death could make you more alive? It's a question that might feel jarring at first, but for the Stoics, it was the foundation of a profound practice, Memento Mori, or the reflection on mortality. Far from being morbid, this ritual was designed to sharpen focus, clarify priorities, and inspire a life of purpose. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, often reminded himself, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. His words aren't meant to frighten us, they're meant to awaken us. By acknowledging the inevitability of death, we're reminded of the preciousness of life, and that awareness can transform how we live. The Stoics didn't see death as something to fear or avoid. They saw it as a teacher. Seneca, one of their most eloquent voices, wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time." These words remind us that reflecting on mortality isn't about dwelling on the end, it's about making the most of the time we have. When we remember that life is finite, we're more likely to focus on what truly matters, our values, our relationships, and the legacy we want to leave behind. So, how can you bring this practice into your own life? One powerful way is to set aside a few moments each day to reflect on your mortality. It doesn't have to be a long or elaborate ritual, simply asking yourself, if today were my last day, how would I want to spend it? Can be enough to shift your perspective. This isn't about creating urgency or pressure, it's about creating clarity. By reminding yourself of life's impermanence, you're more likely to make choices that align with what's truly important to you. Another practical application is to reflect on your legacy. Imagine looking back on your life from your final days. What would you want to see? What kind of person would you want to have been? What impact would you want to have made? These questions aren't meant to overwhelm you, they're meant to guide you. They help you identify what matters most so you can start living in alignment with those priorities today. For example, if you realize you want to be remembered for your kindness, you might make a conscious effort to show more compassion in your daily interactions. If you want to leave a creative legacy, you might dedicate more time to your passions. Here's a thought to reflect on. How would your life change if you lived each day as if it could be your last? Would you spend more time with loved ones, pursue a long-held dream, let go of grudges or fears? Memento Mori isn't about living in fear of death, it's about living in awe of life. It's about using the awareness of your mortality as a catalyst to live more fully, more intentionally, and more meaningfully. Because when you remember that your time is limited, you begin to see every moment as a gift, and that's when life truly begins. As we come to the end of this journey through 30 Stoic rituals, it's worth pausing to reflect on the bigger picture. These practices aren't just individual tools, they're part of a larger philosophy, a way of life that transforms solitude into a source of profound inner strength. Each ritual, from morning reflection to embracing discomfort, from practicing gratitude to cultivating courage, builds upon the others, creating a foundation of resilience, presence, and virtue. Together, they teach us that solitude isn't something to fear or avoid. It's an opportunity to connect with ourselves, to grow, and to find peace even in the midst of life's chaos. At the heart of Stoicism is the belief that we have the power to shape our inner world, no matter what's happening around us. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. These words remind us that true peace isn't found in changing our circumstances, but in mastering our responses to them. By practicing these rituals, we're not just building habits, we're cultivating a mindset that allows us to face life's challenges with clarity, courage, and compassion. But here's the beautiful thing, you don't have to do everything at once. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't require perfection. Start small. Choose one ritual that resonates with you, whether it's journaling in the morning, practicing deep listening, or simply taking a moment to observe nature, and commit to it this week. Let it become a small but meaningful part of your daily life. Over time, as you build on these practices, you'll notice a shift, not just in how you handle solitude, but in how you show up for yourself and others. So, what's one ritual you're excited to try? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your journey and the insights you've gained. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing to the channel for more Stoic wisdom and practical tools to help you live with greater purpose and peace. Remember, the path to inner strength begins with a single step. Take that step today and see where it leads you. Because when you embrace solitude as a teacher, you unlock a well of resilience and wisdom that can carry you through anything life brings.